Hello everybody, and either welcome or welcome back to my podcast. As always, if you do like this, I'd like to remind you, please rate, comment, and subscribe. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. So we have made it to the end of another week that has been pretty much dominated by Russiagate /Mueller/Barr news. But before we get too far into that, there is an update on the Julian Assange situation. In the UK, he has been sentenced to 50 weeks of jail in the UK related to him jumping bail and holding up in the Ecuadorian embassy. So he is apparently going to be going to jail in the United Kingdom. Still no word on extradition to the US. Obviously, Assange is fighting it. There hasn't been a decision made one way or the other. So as it stands for right now, it seems like he's going to be in the UK for about a year, barring further revelations, but wanted to go ahead and just get that out of the way because there's not a lot to discuss there, but it is news. So let's go ahead and go back to the story that never ends. It just goes on and on, my friends. And that is the Russiagate Mueller report story that I'm going to have to talk about this every time until I die. I am resigning myself to this fact that this story is never going to be over. Or at least, and not until Trump is out of office. But what ended up happening this week is that last Sunday, news broke and a lot of people ran with the story that Mueller apparently wrote a letter to the Department of Justice after Barr had released his summary letters on the Mueller report, stating that he had some issues with how this whole thing was handled. Now, the way it was framed by people who were just going off of tweets and headlines and the first 3 paragraphs of a story was that Mueller had an issue with the way Barr characterized his findings, basically kind of construing it in that saying that Mueller didn't like how Barr presented the findings and that he misconstrued them or misrepresented them or didn't exactly get the flavor that Mueller was going for in his report. But once you actually drill down into the piece and actually read it, Mueller's issue was less with how Barr presented the report factually, because if you actually read the piece, there is a part in there, and it's this long kind of involved story about, he released the letter to the DOJ, and then Barr found out about it, and then he called up Mueller and is like, hey, what the hell, man? What's going on? Why didn't you just call me if you had a problem? And at one point, Barr point blank asked Mueller, did I factually misrepresent your report? And Mueller said no. The problem that Mueller had was that, first off, he wasn't entirely comfortable with the way that Barr handled the release of the report. Apparently, when Mueller wrote it, he wrote executive summaries for each individual section with the idea that those executive summaries would be released to the public in advance of the full report being released, instead of Barr releasing a summary letter to the public before releasing the full report. And it also read to me that Mueller seemed to be pushing more for a more piecemeal release of the report as opposed to releasing the full redacted report in the way that Barr did, which I kind of have to agree with Barr on this one. I don't think releasing it piecemeal would have been a very good thing to do, because the other problem that Mueller had is the way that the press handled Barr's summary letters and kind of the reaction that happened in the media, which, of course, we've already talked about this. Everything just blew up after the summary letters were released. And I was honestly kind of surprised that Mueller was surprised at how this went down. Because to me, it doesn't matter either way. However this report was going to come out, whether he had actually released Mueller's summary reports to the press as Mueller had intended, or Barr's letter, or just dumping the whole report out there, either redacted, unredacted, the response from the media would have been the exact same no matter what. So I was a little surprised that Mueller was surprised by how that was handled, because I mean, there was no way that reaction was not going to happen. None whatsoever. It would not have mattered. Like, even if the full unredacted report was dropped without any executive summaries, no summary letters, no nothing, no build-up, just dumped out there, and people would still have lost their shit. Like, people were going to lose their shit regardless. And that's exactly what happened. So that was really the crux of what Mueller's complaints were to the DOJ, which, I mean, that's fine. Mueller gets to have an opinion about how the report was released, the same as all the rest of us. However, it wasn't his call to make as to how to release the report. That was Barr's decision, and Barr handled it in the way that he handled it. So, I mean, it's a story, I guess, but of course, everybody lost their shit on this story because everybody wanted to take it as Mueller slamming Barr for mischaracterizing his report, or kind of not saying it, but kind of saying that Barr lied about the content of the report, which he did not. Even per Mueller, Barr did not lie about the content of the report. And like I've already said, covering this before, now that the report's out in its redacted form, you can see that the conclusions that Barr drew in his summary letters match up with the information that we have now seen in the report. So, yeah, it was just this huge, stupid non-story that is just like every other stupid, huge non-story in this whole big, stupid, huge non-story, where it's like everybody wants to just take what the fuck ever and run with it. And it's just like, how many of these stories are we going to have where it's going to be like this 24 hours of just extreme outrage, run around, hair on fire, and then like 48 hours after that of, oh, well, it actually is not that, it's actually this, which is way less interesting and sexy and has a hell of a lot less pop than that we presented it as. But unfortunately, that is already out there, so that's what everybody runs with. So it's just, you would think at some point somebody would learn something, but no, apparently not. So anyway, moving on from that. On this past Wednesday, Barr did go testify in front of a Senate hearing, and I didn't sit down and actually watch the hearing, but I've watched clips of it, and it's pretty much exactly what you would have expected if you've watched any congressional hearing over the past 2 years that has anything to do with anything possibly scandalous or salacious, or something that might get you a 20-second sound bit on the news. It's like you have 5 people taking this seriously and everybody else just grandstanding like idiots. Like, the worst one, I think, was Kamala Harris asking Barr if Barr had reviewed the evidence and the source material behind the Mueller report. And Barr's like, no. And she keeps hammering him on this, and I'm just like, well, of course he didn't. Why would he? That's what we just paid Mueller and his team to do. Why would you go behind him and check his work? To me, I would think that would be incredibly rude to Mueller and his team, that if Mueller hands in his report and Barr's like, okay, well, can you show me all the evidence that goes behind this report so I can go over it myself? It's it'd be like, screw you, dude. I just spent 2.5 years making this report and you want to sit here and fact check it? That would be so rude. But, of course, everybody wanted to portray it like this big gotcha moment, yes, Queen Kamala, slay. And it's just no, that was a stupid question, and really kind of insulting to both Barr and Mueller to even ask that question. So that kind of gives you an idea of how that went down. Now, Barr was supposed to testify again on Thursday. Barr refused to go to Thursday's testimony, which of course led to another 3-ring circus of everybody showing up and then Barr's chair's empty. Some dipshit brought a fucking bucket of KFC and sat there and ate it, and had this little toy chicken thing that he put in Barr's seat. And I'm like, really? You really want me to take you seriously and this is what you do? You are profoundly unserious people, Congress. Please stop putting us through this. The only hearing that should be happening at this point is an impeachment hearing, which, like I said, ain't gonna happen. I don't see anybody having the guts to actually go through with that, so all of the rest of this is just window dressing, grandstanding nonsense that changes abso-freaking-lutely nothing. And yeah, so Barr refused to go on Thursday. Now, bearing in mind everything I just said about how bullshit the hearing is, you still go if you're Barr. Because as dumb and asinine and childish and stupid and grandstanding as it is, if you go and you answer the questions, nobody can say that you didn't go and answer the questions. Like, you have that moral high ground of being able to say, listen, I did what you asked me to. I sat here for 2 days. I answered all your questions, even the dumb ones. So now what? Like, what more do you want from me? By not showing up, now everybody gets to play this, oh look, Barr's scared, he's running away, he didn't show up. Oh my God, let's try to hold him in contempt of Congress if he doesn't show up. And let's threaten him that if he doesn't release the redacted report by blah 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 date, we'll hold him in contempt of Congress. It's like, this is why you suck it up, you go through the show trial, just so you can say, I did what you asked. So now what? But this is obviously not over by a long shot, because it was released today that, tentatively speaking, Mueller is set to testify on the 15th. So as much of a circus as this Barr questioning was, you can imagine how batshit insane May 15th is going to be when Mueller gets questioned in front of the Senate. Like, it's just, I mean, it's dumb. It's honestly really fucking dumb at this point, because like I said, this means nothing. The report is the report. It said what it said. Trump's not getting charged with anything. I mean, you can question Barr and Mueller every damn day until the day Trump leaves office. It doesn't change the facts that, criminally speaking, nothing is going to come of this. Now, if you want to try to start impeachment proceedings, that's your business. But either do that or stop this. Like, this is just a waste of time at this point. Like, what is the point of asking them questions? Like, it's all right there. It's in the fucking report. Like, what more do you want either one of these men to say to try to explain things to you? Like, either impeach or don't. Like, shit or get off the pot. That's it. That's all there is left to say at this point about this story. But, of course, like I said, it's the story that never ends, so we're going to have to keep talking about it, because there's still going to be stupid stuff in relation to this until Trump just isn't president anymore. I've resigned myself to that. Like, this is never going to go away. It's never going to go away. The press is never going to let it go away. Congress is never going to let it go away. And it's just like, when do we stop? I'm tired of it. I'm tired of this story. I'm tired. It's done. Like, it should have just been done when the Mueller report was released. It's like, okay, well, there's no collusion. He's not getting charged with obstruction of justice for anything. So the investigation's over. The report's out. Can we all just keep it moving now? But no, too many people apparently have way too much invested into this. Anyway, moving on from that to the other story that has kind of sucked all of the air out of parts of the news cycle for the past couple of days, and that is the fact that Alex Jones, Milo, Laura Loomer, and Louis Farrakhan, which, how the hell did Louis Farrakhan end up with these guys? But all of them have now been officially kicked off of Facebook and Instagram, which, if you weren't aware, Facebook owns Instagram. So I'm not entirely sure who was still on what platform. I know Milo was still on Instagram. I think Laura was still on Instagram too. I'm pretty sure they had already kicked Alex Jones off of Facebook. I don't know if he had an Instagram. And this is the first time I've ever seen Farrakhan kicked off of anything. So that one's really the shocker to me. It's like, the other three, like, they've been kicked off of Twitter already. They've been kicked off of other various social media. Like, Alex Jones doesn't have his YouTube channel anymore. I don't think Milo or Laura is on YouTube anymore, but Farrakhan was still as far as I know, still on every platform. He's still on Twitter, as far as I know. So that one was kind of a shocker. I was like, okay. But it was initially presented as these far-right people being kicked off of these platforms for being dangerous or saying things that the platforms deemed to be dangerous speech. Which, here we fucking go again. So, obviously, you already know what the reactions are. It's the same as the reactions when Alex Jones was kicked off of Twitter, when he was kicked off of YouTube, back when Milo was deplatformed, when Laura was deplatformed. You have the same people making the same arguments, calling for the same things. Hello, free speech activists, how are you doing? It's a little different when it happens to you, isn't it? But here's the thing. And this is a topic I don't think I've ever discussed on the podcast. And so I want to go ahead and take this particular moment to discuss Section 230 and Twitter's space in the internet. And especially in regards to this argument that I keep seeing pop up about Twitter being a publisher. Twitter is not a publisher. And I will go ahead and start this by reading the verbiage of Section 230 that deals with this particular situation. So, Section 230 states, no provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. Let me back up and read that again. No provider or user of an interactive computer service shall be treated as the publisher or speaker of any information provided by another information content provider. This is what has been considered to be the backbone of the internet as far as free speech is concerned on the internet. This is what has enabled not only sites like Twitter to offer a platform for people to post their content to, but this has also been the legal protection for websites to allow third parties to post content onto their sites via comment sections, via chat rooms, via just hosting sites. Like, your host can't be held responsible for what you say. Your internet service provider can't be held responsible for what you say. And in this particular context, it's been used as a protection for sites like Twitter and Facebook and YouTube and Instagram and various other social medias to allow people to post onto their platforms, because per this definition, they are platforms, they are not publishers, and to not be held legally liable for what somebody who is not affiliated with those particular platforms says on the platform. Without Section 230, the internet as it exists right now would not exist, because there would be no way to adequately handle free speech on the internet without that legal indemnification. Now, some people want to make the argument, especially in relation to where we are at right now with social media allowing or not allowing certain people to use their platforms, is does that now make them a publisher? Per Section 230, no, it does not. Because there's no verbiage in Section 230 that says that as a platform, you have to allow everybody in the world to use your platform. There's nothing there that says that you can't choose to not allow certain people to use your platform. And to try to make it as a better example for you to understand, say you have a website or you have a blog and you put up posts and you have a comment section. Now, you are allowed to police your own comment section. Like, you don't have to allow every Tom, Dick, and Harry to post whatever the fuck they want in your comment section. Like, if somebody's being abusive, you can delete their post, you can block them from posting, you can edit people's posts, you can decide that you do not want to host certain language in your comment section. That doesn't mean that now you are all of a sudden responsible for that content. You are only responsible for the content that you yourself posted onto your site. You're not responsible for anything that anybody else comes along and posts onto your site. And I keep harping on this because it is a legal precedent that exists to keep everybody who offers a platform for third parties to post onto their platform from getting sued out of existence. Because if you remove that, if all of a sudden you, as somebody who hosts a blog with a comment section, is now legally liable for everything that's posted on your site, anybody could sue you for anything. And extrapolate that out further, if Twitter was no longer considered a platform but a publisher, that means that they are responsible for every single tweet on the platform, and that anything that anybody says on the platform, Twitter can be sued because somebody said a thing. Not that Twitter said it, but just by sheer fact that they are hosting it and being considered the publisher of it, they are now legally liable for it. You can understand where this would go horribly, horribly, horribly fucking wrong. Like, this is what gets me when people try to make the argument that Twitter wants publisher status. No, Twitter does not want publisher status. No social media company in existence wants publisher status, because none of them want to be held legally responsible for the things posted on their site, as they shouldn't be, because it's not up to them. If you want to remove that protection, I can tell you exactly what's going to happen. It's going to be one of two things. Either A, the platform will still exist, and you will see the worst, most draconian censorship you have ever seen in your entire life. Because if these platforms are now responsible legally for what is posted on their sites, they're not going to let you post anything controversial at all. Like, forget it. We're all fucked. Or what will happen is that they don't do that kind of censorship, and they just get shit hammered with lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit after lawsuit because, I don't know, some asshole went on Twitter and said, yo, that Jen's a cunt and she should die. And then I can sue Twitter because you hosted content that is threatening to me. You see where the problem is, right? So this is why I come down so hard on these particular issues, because it's very, very important to understand when you start making certain arguments like Section 230 should be abolished or should be amended. You're not just hitting those sites that you want to hit. It's going to hit everybody. Every single website that allows its material to be accessible in the United States would be affected if Section 230 was revoked or altered. And no, you can't just alter a law for 3 or 4 sites. Like, that's not how this works. It's either everybody or it's nobody. And once you start altering things for the 3 or 4 sites, okay, how do you then define that going forward? Like, what if you host a blog and your blog is very popular and you get millions of page views? All of a sudden, are you going to be lumped in that same category? Is your Section 230 rights going to be revoked? Because you host a blog and lots of people go on it and lots of people post comments and lots of people read the comments. So now are you the public square? Do you get your protections revoked? Or all of a sudden, because of your popularity, is it now something where you have to be personally responsible for everything that's posted on your site? Like, you understand where this is a really, really bad idea. So, like I said, that's why I come down on these sorts of issues. And I really, really, really do not advocate for government interference into social media at all. It is not going to end well. You're taking a free speech issue and turning it into a potential legit 1A issue, because if you're asking Congress to intervene, then you're asking Congress to make a law, and the First Amendment is very, very clear on that topic. So, no. No, 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 no. And everybody who makes the argument, just sit down and really think about what the end game of that would look like before you make the argument. Because, like I said, you're not going to apply this just to this one handful of sites. Like, it's going to apply to everybody. So, make sure before you advocate for something that you're comfortable with everybody living under those rules. Because that's where it will end. So, at this point, I'm going to go ahead and wrap this episode up. As always, if you do like this, please rate, comment, and subscribe. You can find me on iTunes, Google Play, Stitcher, SoundCloud, Spotify, and YouTube. Take care, and until next time.